Welcome to Light Code Portal. I'm Tanya Griffin. I'm the Dean of Education for Light Language University, and we're here with Anna Noyce. Tonight's topic is going to be long distance healing. Thank you, Anna, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is fun.
And as always, we're sponsored by Light Language University and Circle Insights.
Yes.
Yep. All right, Anna, how are you doing tonight?
Actually, really well. It's been a good evening. So I'm
Good.
excited about the topic. Long distance healing is going to be one of our favorites. We do a lot of this in light language, and then also in my personal practice, Circle Insights. So it would be a good topic for
Exactly.
tonight. Yeah.
Well, we have some really good questions tonight. Our first question is, how do you actually heal someone from far away? Um, so what are your techniques, or should I say, what would you tell somebody who you were explaining we're going to do long distance healing on you?
Okay, that thank you. So we do it so naturally since we're all kind of connected, and I like to go back to those four levels of consciousness: individual, group, collective, and oneness, and everything is connected through those consciousness. It's a matter of how we connect to that individual that we're working on. So we can think of them, we can kind of sit for a minute and kind of feel their energy and bring that into our space, and then with that, we can send whatever images that we're creating in our mind's eye or through our energy fields as they connect, because everything's interconnected. And working through that field helps to change and shift things. And as we know, when you're shifting things in the energy centers that are inside the body and then the aura, it also starts changing and shifting things in the physical body. So,
Okay.
mhm.
So when you are going to do long distance healing on someone, would you call them and ask permission? Do you need permission to work on them?
Okay, so this is really good because this can be controversial for a lot of people, and for me in my practice, people pay me to work on them, so there's usually not an issue there. But when I was learning, of course, our teacher, and I was learning Reiki at the time, she said, "Don't run after people and say I can heal you." And chase them down the street and they're running from you. So, but the other thing is, yes, we can send that information, or we can send through that connection, and their higher selves will either accept it or their higher self will deny it. And if it does, it always comes back to the sender, whether they accept the energy or they don't. So even if you're sending energy toward them, you're kind of healing yourself because everything's coming through you as a channel. So yeah, and some teachers will tell you don't ever do it without asking permission. So some um, practitioners will go and talk to their higher self and ask permission that way, and the higher self
Mhm.
will let them know. And others will go ahead and send it, knowing that the higher self will, regulate that anyway.
Okay. So then if you had someone like, often you have like prayer warriors, if somebody calls you and asks for you to work on someone who is incapacitated, or very sick,
Yes.
then in that case, that would fall under that category where you would work with the higher self, correct?
Absolutely. And the higher self is always taking care of that, whether we're conscious or unconscious. It knows what it needs and what it will accept. So another reason why you don't have to worry that somebody's going to send energy and you don't want it, because your higher self knows if it's a match or not.
Okay. So in that case, then when you're working on somebody who's incapacitated, that you don't have to necessarily have express permission to do so.
Yes. And thank you for being clear with that. But that's so true. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you're working with someone, is it necessary to let them know that you're working on them at that point?
No, not necessary. And I guess again, it goes back to asking permission. Sometimes it's better if the person knows because they're more accepting of it on that level. And then other times you may have somebody that's clear across the world and you're thinking of them, a loved one, and you want to send them this beautiful energy or help them. And there's not a way to communicate. Maybe they're in the jungle or they're somewhere that they can't communicate with you. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a matter of plugging into those consciousness and opening up that doorway and helping to shift the energy. But it works, as you know. We've had so many people, especially during COVID, and you, Tanya, have been right there with me. We've worked on so many people together, and people have had miraculously, can't even say the word miraculous recoveries, or they've had some good things that have happened to them. So yeah, it's not necessary.
And to further expound on that, what is going on? If you have somebody who you feel that energy, you feel like they need a healing,
Mm-hmm.
then you would go ahead and do that automatically.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do that. We pray for people all the time. And that's another way of sending energy. So I would look at Reiki. We used to describe Reiki as kind of like an energy prayer that's sending out to help. So, yeah.
So, with healing, you could work on anything, such as animals, plants, whatever. You don't necessarily have to have a permission or reception to do that.
It is about our connection. I know I tell that story about how we're all connected, and I was singing and go up I astral project into this other dimension that's just a higher frequency. When I pull myself back, it helps shift people in the room. So one of the things that we can do to help others around is work on ourselves. And we always forget to work on ourselves. When we work on ourselves, we actually affect other people around us. We affect the world. We affect the energies. We affect different groups, are people that we're in that vicinity with. So I think it's really important to also remember to work on ourselves.
Yes, I mean that's something that a lot of people forget about. In across the board, it's not just in energy work, but you forget to do your own work, and you can't be effective if you're not making sure that you're taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And you and I've had some really good discussions about that, and working with our students and clients, trying to impart that onto them, that it's real important to take care of yourself. So, yes.
Now, what can a person that you're doing long distance energy work, what can they do to help facilitate that? Would you ask them to what advice would you give them while you're doing it?
Well, so with our clients, a lot of them, because we're working together, and if I am on Zoom or on the phone, I'll ask them to lay down, and then we'll start breathing and we'll start doing the chakra balancing tool, which we have on the YouTubes for both light language and under circle insights. And what happens is that it starts to raise their frequency, open up those centers, realign the centers, and then I can go in and start working a lot more freer. And sometimes, Tanya, this is interesting. Even though people will give you verbal permission, they might be afraid of something. And so when you connect, they can block you. I had a
Right.
I had a wonderful, and I tell this story in one of our workshops, that I had a young man and he asked me to work on him, and he's paying me to do some energy work on him, and I couldn't. It was like a tortoise shell that was right there. And so I'm like pushing on the energy, trying to shove myself in. And finally I gave up. And as I sat back, I fell into the energy and connected. So that was such an easy connect. And then I was able to do the work. But we talk about different smoke screens. We talk about different ways that people, just out of, they're afraid or not sure what that session's going to be like, may block you, even though they've asked you to help. So yeah, it's different for each person you work on, depending on where you're going.
Right. And if, one thing I've noticed that, if people are more sensitive, oftentimes because they can feel you when you're in their energy field, and
Yes.
they can, even though they know you're there and they know you're working, but yeah, it's like anything else. They might throw up that wall because
Mhm.
it freaks them out because they can feel it.
Yeah, and you feel it. You feel that, and you're like, okay, we're gonna move. It's fine. We're going here. So yeah, and I think it's important for each practitioner is to know their clients and to know how to maneuver in those situations so that you can make your client or whoever you're working on a lot more at ease when you're working on them. So absolutely.
Right. So when you're doing long distance healing or any kind of energy healing, um, how often should you work on them, and why? Why would you limit the amount of time?
Yeah, well, and that, as you know, already, that depends on the person. I don't know till I'm in there, working on someone, and then I want to wait to see how they adjust. So I always tell my clients or the person I'm working on, come back, let me know, and then I'll work on you again because they're the ones that are the best judge of how many times they'll know when the shifts are happening. They'll feel better. They'll feel, and they come back. They always, yeah, they'll come back when they're ready. And if they don't, well, that's great too because we want
Right.
people to do well. We want them to go on and live these wonderful lives. So, yeah.
Right. And I know that we normally, when we're through with the session, we'll let them know what to expect afterwards, because there can be, once those energies shift, there's oftentimes some physical reactions.
We know about those.
Yes.
We had one. I love her. She's one of our clients, and she didn't. We told her that we said, okay, in 3 days, you're going to have these experiences that are possible. They may not happen. They may not. But remember, you've had real surgery. And she came to us. I think it was the second day, and said, "Oh my goodness, it didn't hit me till the second day, till that day." But she said it knocked her off her keister, basically. And she said, "Wow." And I said, "Yeah, 3 days, drink your water, take care of yourself, be good to yourself because you are going to make those adjustments." And we never know, right, Tanya, who's going to, which one, some people sail right through it and others are really detoxing or working through it.
Right. It just depends on the amount of energy you shift. And it's like you said, as a practitioner, that's one of the things that you have to learn so you can gauge how much energy you can move around when you're in there to keep that person from actually going into a type of shock.
Well, we call it what is the healing crisis and ascension
Yeah.
flu. And sometimes, you can move things around, but still we disengage, but still they're going to have that because they need the shift. So I want to say something because there is a misconception that because somebody is feeling bad after a practitioner works on them, they will, in the past, people have turned around and said, that's bad energy or it's they put juju on me or they're not good. And what we understand, and especially how we're trying to educate people, you wouldn't say that to a doctor who just opened you up and did surgery and say, oh, you're a terrible doctor. Because what's happening is the body is adjusting and it's shifting and it's changing frequencies and that energy starting to flood through. So maybe there was a block in the body and now you've opened it and now the body starts detoxing or starts to go into an ascension flu, which is the natural response of the body trying to adjust to the new energy. But it's not a bad thing. In fact, we as practitioners, if somebody goes through this, we're like, okay, be prepared if it does go through, but it's not a bad thing. This is actually a good thing because we know that the work we did is really working on you.
Correct. Correct. And we do, we make sure that we tell all of our clients that and prepare them afterwards. So when you are doing your distance healing, um, do you just think of healing a person's certain parts of their body? Do you move your hands? I think every practitioner on this particular question, I think
Different.
it's kind of a yes and no, because I think every practitioner does it a little differently.
I do. And it's funny because I do have a dear friend and she does Reiki. And when she does, she has this huge teddy bear from Costco. And she'll use it as a surrogate and work on the teddy bear to send the energy because she's connected, but it helps her to have something where she knows she's on the foot or the head or something.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I tend to just see the person and then I work on them energetically and I know where I am in the body and I will go inside the body and see the organs and go into the blood tissues and work with that. So it's not, you're right, it's different for each person. And other people just like to hold their hands and allow, if they're doing Reiki, to allow the Reiki, because Reiki is intelligent, and allow the Reiki to do all the energy. So you're right, it just depends on the practitioner, how they connect and work with that. But good question. I like that question.
Yeah, and like I said, it's one of those. It's kind of like it doesn't have a yes or no answer because everybody does do it differently. I'm a more hands-on person myself with my energy. I probably look like a parrot or something out here flapping wings, but that's how I move energy. um, so the next question is, I've heard that just imagining the sick person in a perfect state of health, smiling, laughing, and moving easily without pain is a way we can help people. And
Absolutely.
how would that work?
Absolutely, because again, we're connected through the four levels of consciousness. So when you're sending that energy, they get to either, and that energy comes into their field, their higher self will pick it up and copy that and then bring that into the body and start to create that program, like a computer program, and that will start to help. So yeah, it can be as simple as that. It can be just thinking about that person or sending love or feeling love for that person. But yeah, all of it's a connection.
Okay, and so our next one is, how can we ask for healing from our spirit team, ET friends, or angels? Or is it wrong to do this?
It's not wrong. Please do. Because they have to have permission. Always ask permission. And so that's really important to ask them because they can't, free will is free will and they can't go against your free will. So without you asking, they can't help you. And you can ask for specific things and open and loud. But also remember when we talked about throwing up, walls or some way of protecting ourselves, sometimes when people ask, they're like, okay, I really want my spirit guide to work on me. And then they do this. And so the spirit guides are not going to force themselves. They're going to wait until you're ready for them to help you, even though you asked.
Okay. Um, how can we apply long distance healing to Mother Earth so that she continues to remain strong in times of environmental distress?
So that goes back to our connection of how we are healing ourselves. Because if we're healing ourselves, we're sending that energy all around us in our fields. We're connecting into Earth and we're healing her because we're all connected. So it's really important. You can sit there and send Reiki into the earth, but if you heal yourself and you work on yourself, you're already shifting that energy. That's a big one. And we forget that.
It is a big one.
Yeah. And it's so easy. So,
So, how can we apply long distance healing to our lives on a daily basis?
so I guess in that question, are you asking for others or for just around? Or I guess I'm not clear on that
I'm not
question.
really sure. To all of our lives.
So I
So it sounds like that they're asking, um, how can they apply long distance healing technique to their everyday life to help other people?
and it goes back to us healing ourselves, really working ourselves. We know that through our light language and our physical body. We teach this in our 101 workshop, that the anatomy of the soul, 30% is in the physical body, 70 is outside. And as we start to shift in our physical body and shift with the anatomy of the spirit, it sends out shockwaves and light codes out way beyond our aura. And that, as we pass people, it affects somebody else. And as so let's say that you're in Walmart or Target and you pass somebody, your aura and their aura reminds each other, and it has this talk. This is what light language is about. And that light language that they're talking is actually helping to change the other person. So if we're aware of what's happening with us and we're working on ourselves, we're also helping to heal other people that we come in contact with or think about because of those 4 levels of consciousness.
Right. So in effect, when we work on ourselves, we're helping heal others.
Absolutely.
At the same time.
Absolutely.
So on long distance healing, when you want to go into the field of your medical intuitive or so forth, that you would actually do the long distance healing. And of course, we do teach medical intuitive at Light Language University. So what would you tell people who wanted to move into this field?
As far as
energy healing?
Well, I think with it kind of opens up a little bit more of, with Reiki, you allow the energy just to do its work. But with what we're teaching is really kind of how the organs work, how to work with the guides, how to go in deeper. Sacred geometry, we're working with different dimensions, we're changing the anatomy, we're working with portals, it crosses over into our spirit rescue because we have attachments. There's so many things that are coming in, and then we've got past and present, future, and parallel lives that are also anchoring in and making shifts. Plus there's so much. I mean, there's contracts and agreements and things that we're looking at. So I would say to go deeper in, and the list goes on, obviously, but to look at it deeper and really as an individual that comes in front of you and asks for help, to really be able to look at the whole person, look at that body, but also look at the spirit, look at the mind, and look at how it's interconnecting as multi-dimensions. So I think that's really important. And that's kind of where our medical intuitive is about.
Right. And then, so if somebody was to come to you and say, Anna, I feel pulled to be an energy healer, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would take Light Language 101, learn about the anatomy of the spirit, the basics, the history, how everything works. And then I would take 102, which is the dimensions, and really learning how to merge and to shift energy. I think so many people, we're all empaths. Everybody in the world is an empath on some level. Some more sensitive, some have tried to shut it down, but we all have that capacity. And so I think it's really important to know how to gauge what is yours and what is not yours when you're working with people. So definitely, as a healer, I would go through the 101, 102, which are prerequisites, and then follow wherever that takes you in your healing modality that you're looking at. So, yeah.
So then my next question would be, if somebody asks you, what's the difference between Reiki and medical intuitive?
Oh, big difference. Reiki is basically you hold your hands and you allow the energy to channel through you. When you're working with medical intuitive, you're actually seeing the person and you're opening them up and you're going deeper into that. You're like the surgeon, you're working in, and your spirit team is a part of what you're doing. And you're working with all of those other things that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's why we call it medical intuitive / psychic surgery, and why we tell people to expect to feel as if you've had an actual surgery, because we've actually been in there working on those different organs. So it is a little different than Reiki.
Absolutely. Yes.
And, the light language 101 and 102, the reason, like you said, the reason it's so important is because you need to understand how everything works before you can move on to be able to learn how to move that energy around.
Absolutely, yes. And how to connect and
Mhm.
know your boundaries as well.
Right.
Know each person.
And how to take care of yourself.
Absolutely, yes. It is a lot of fun. So we do have that coming up in the fall, right? We've got one scheduled coming up.
We actually have a medical intuitive class coming up in August.
Oh, okay.
We have a light language 101, and this is a special one because Miss Anna will be teaching it in person, and it will be at Miracles of Joy this Saturday and Sunday in Lewisville, Texas. So we encourage anybody, if you want to come out and take this workshop with Anna, sign up now. We have space available. Our next Light Language 101 workshop will be in September. It will be September 11th through 12th, and that will be via Zoom. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that when we do the in-person classes, hop on quickly so that way they can actually have a one-on-one class with you. Well, not one-on-one. You have other people, but
Right.
they actually get you in person.
Yes.
So, Anna, do you have anything else you would like to talk about tonight before we start to close?
No, I think that's good. Do we have any more questions? Or are we?
Nope, that was our last question. So we'll go ahead and close for tonight. We want to thank everybody for joining us. Like I said, again, we are holding a in-person Light Language 101 workshop at Miracles of Joy in Lewisville, Texas, Saturday and Sunday, July 24th and 25th. We still have some room available. You can go online and register today to join us in that class. The next one will be via Zoom, and it will be September 11th through 12th. And again, we thank you so much for joining us. Our topic next time is going to be the dying process.
Oh, it's going to be a good one.
Dying.
Yeah. So we want everybody to send questions in, please, or
yes, please.
Type in your questions too.
Please, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Anna, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Good night.
Good night.